The condition is really crazy condition.
I mean, that shouldn't give away the whole secret to professional windsurfing.
Maciek giving Antoine Albo a run for his body. Here we go. What a finish.
The guy is kind of talking bullshit.
The team's just got to work a little harder. Welcome to the Windsurfing Podcast, back again for episode 37. And this week, we've got a windsurfing power couple. I actually went to their wedding in Maui, which was absolutely epic. We're going to talk about Maui. We're going to talk about that sport-work balance. We're going to talk about sailing jaws. Yes, we are. We're going to talk about, just windsurfing in general, the scene in the USA and windsurfing, you know, what it's like. We're going to talk about training the top pros. Yes, because that's what she is doing right now, as well as being one of the top women wave sailors in the world. We're going to talk about making movies. We're going to talk about a whole load of other stuff. Who is it? Well, it is, of course, Sarah and Casey Hauser.
Sarah, Casey, how you guys doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Question number one, did the fish stink out of the living room? Like, did that go away?
Yeah. I thought that was your last question, actually. I was wondering.
No, that was my first question. So for people wondering what's going on, I stayed at, I think, Sarah, you were, in New Caledonia, and Casey was rehabbing.
I just got done my
hip. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was staying, so I rented out your house and I fried some tuna, I think, nice fresh tuna or whatever it was. And it kind of stayed there for weeks.
It was all good until I realized he was coming back in a few days. So at that point, I needed to do some candle lighting and ventilating.
Yeah. I hope I didn't break the news now, but yeah.
No.
That's okay. It made the relationship stronger.
That's right. Yeah. We're glad to have you be able to hang out here. Experience it. Yeah.
You guys must have had an amazing winter. Was it like one of the best ever? A lot of swell, a lot of wind, uncrowded. How was that?
It was insane. Like the amount of windy days that we had this winter, I haven't seen that once since I've been in Maui for 8 years. And it was also like there's a period from I'd say like mid-December till end of January where it's pretty much like Jaws was there. It was happening every week or every 2 weeks. I remember like doing writing the workouts for Marcelo and Ricardo and all the guys up where we train up country together. And so I would always write a getting ready for Jaws workout, kind of be like, when are we doing something else, you know? But yeah, no, it was insane. And just the lack of crowd too was quite nice, although it's a little sad too, you know, not hearing every single language on earth being spoken on the parking lot and feeling that vibe of people coming and traveling. So there were a few, but definitely not as many as usually.
Yeah. And Jaws is like a bit of a reoccurring theme on this podcast. You, Casey, you had like your first experience this winter, correct?
Yeah, finally got to go.
After living in Maui for quite a few years now, is there something that surprised you after 10 plus years of actually watching it and being on the cliff and maybe being even on the boat and stuff? Was there something that you were like, wow, I didn't expect that?
I wouldn't want to sound like repeating what a lot of other people say on that side, but it's truly hard to actually comprehend just how massive and scary it is until you really are out there. I actually had the opportunity this summer when we were shooting some windfoil stuff to windfoil from Kuau up to Jaws with Kevin and Boujma. So that was like my first experience actually in the water up there all these years. And it was kind of funny because they're like, oh, we could check it out. It's flat. It's a July day. Even then, wind swell would come around the corner and like wedge up in the part. And you're just so impressive. I think I don't know, you put these spots in your head, and when you actually get out there, like I remember my first time at the Keep, and your heart's just racing and everything you've seen about it, and then you're actually there, and it takes a while to cruise down for that, and it was definitely the same feeling. And as much as people say it, or you watch videos, or you check it out from the bluff or something, to really be like, there's just massive walls of black everywhere. It was such an experience for that. I was like, totally unprepared for that side until you were like, before you knew it, you're like, well, on the wave now, so we'll just stick to what we know and then get through the first one. But yeah,
get to the channel.
Yeah. And then Maxie, who you remember, he's like, next time you can actually stay more on the wave, or else you might as well be down at Kanaha. I'm like, thanks, Maxie. I really, really appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, we'll go out now.
And I think what was new for you to experience the roller coaster of making the call to go. Because that's something was not usually seen, but like the whole decision process before you actually go to be like, okay, we're pulling the trigger, we're booking the ski, we're spending the money, we're taking the whole day. And I think with you're managing your job and everything, and so to make it happen, like it's such a
it's
draining
such
thing.
A time commitment and everything else. Like, it's not like you can schedule it for a certain day. So I mean,
because it was sometimes it's borderline, it's like, you have reports from the cliff or from certain boats that people have been surfing in the morning, and they will be like, oh, the swell is fading, the waves are gone, but maybe it's doing this because of the tide, and then it picks right back up and you missed it, and so it's kind of that like hard call to make, and it's not like just going to a keeper, like you pay for the safety. That's quite
you've got a safety guy and renting the ski and getting off the time from work and trying to do all that. So we actually we made the commitment like more in December. I just realized it's been a couple of years after my last hip surgery, and everything had felt better, so we had the time and had the gear. And it was Adam Lewis was like kind of in the same, like, just for the timing of him moving out, like, want to do it. So we were really like looking at it for a while. You just have the worst, like, is today the day, or should we spend all that money for that? Really? They're checking it out, maybe not. And we had a couple sessions before where we had decided not to go. And one time we went out at Outer Sprex, it was like New Year's Eve actually. And I think we both in hindsight realized, kind of forget, like when you go out some of those other spots, like it's also massive, you kind of like don't think it, and then you're out there and you're like, oh my, probably should have had, the size and the safety out here and that. And then the next time I went down to Kanaha, and we were like, everyone went up there and scored at the afternoon, and that feeling at night, you're like, I don't care. I'm just going to go next time. Like, I have to get up there. So
yeah. And once you make all that commitment and you're there, at least you won't pussy out, right? Because you paid all that money. You do
it like in baby steps. Like Sarah was just like, you just got, it was nice to have her with that past experience. It's like, you just got to say, okay, like, when I check it out, all right, we're just going to, get in the ski, like, just cruise up and see. It's like, okay, it's windy, I can just sail around a little bit, and then you're like, okay, well, that I want to catch that wave. And then, and so it's a nice way to like not have it come all at once.
Yeah. So it sounds like for you, Casey, it was a bit of a process. And I read, Sarah, that it was like your second time in Maui, and Jaws was breaking, and you just went. Like, totally different attitude. Like, is it because, I don't know, you're like, you were from the outside and this opportunity might not come ever again? This is what I felt at least when I was there. Or is it just like your attitude towards everything that you just go and do it?
It was a little bit of attitude, but really, like, the answer is one name. It's Kai Cachadorian, and he was the team captain. He still is the team captain of Simmer Style, who had just become my sponsor, my first sales sponsor. And I don't know, like, it's kind of magical how he didn't know me for very long, but he'd seen me sail a few sessions, and from what he saw, you could tell that I liked being in big conditions, whether it was a Hokipa or back at home in New Caledonia. So when the opportunity came, it was one of those rare swells that come in late in the season. It was April 13th, so pretty late for a jaw swell. And yeah, he was going to go with Francisco Porchela, and because I was small enough, we could do a 3-person ski trip, and offered me that opportunity. And I basically trusted that if he offered it to me, that's because I probably had a chance to do well out there. What I didn't realize really is that it kind of also like, it was my decision really to make at the end of the day. So it was just this circumstance that led to this first session on my second trip indeed, where I was just kind of like, whoa, I was envisioning like maybe living in Maui for a couple of years and then maybe getting to that point. So it's cool sometimes when life rush you into something like, and what I told myself was just, you go out there, if once you're on the spot, you see something that seems to be way beyond your comfort zone, then you don't have to catch a wave. You can just have been out there. That's already a sick experience just to see those waves from the channel, to watch the guy ride them, watch what they do. So that's kind of how I took it. And yeah, it started like that.
Yeah. And bonus question for Casey. How does it feel when your wife does it first? What mix of pride versus embarrassment?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I thought like by whatever standards, the latter and the embarrassment would be an overriding one. But the reality is it's been very rare. It's just the opportunities that we've each had and also like where we come from for that way. And for sure, I wanted to get out there earlier, but have different things to deal with. And as the times and opportunities presented themselves. So I've always just been so proud to see it, like not say it just to make it look like this, but truly, you know, and what she's capable of doing. And it's always a reminder of what we're all, you know, capable of. You like to compare. I don't know, like said, when you learn how to mountain bike, you know, you like follow guys a little bit faster. Okay, you do the same, you level up. So it's lucky to have that for me here. And yeah, it was definitely a lot easier. The whole, I don't know, I didn't have to tell my wife, like, look, I'm going to do something. She's like, no, that doesn't matter. You got to do something else. Instead, it was like, here's your oats, here's your nice day, here's your vest, here's your stuff. I was like, wow, this is rad. like, you know, I couldn't feel the other way for it, but I really like this. And it's like, oh, you want to have a beer, want to hang out, see a big day? Yeah, you go do that now. I was like, oh, really? Oh, well, all right. Yeah. So
the 5-star Jaws experience.
You know, it never was that Kisses didn't have what it took to be out there. It's just that it takes so much to line up, to be available that day, to have had invested in the inflatable vest, to like the body being ready, the mindset with work, because we're not necessarily like always in having all the time available to be prepared, you know. So I think that's something like, it's not just the one day where you go out just, but there's a lot of other things that have to take place for it to happen. And so I think in a way, Casey kind of let me like lead the way, and it was super nice to also have him like sitting next to Steven, the guy who filmed Girl on Wave, you know, on the side of the cliffs, to tell him when to film, how to do that and stuff. So he definitely sacrificed a little bit for me. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, no, I think going back to that too, it's something like, for sure, I'm not going to deny like everyone being horrified of it. I think there's something wrong with you if you're not. You ask the guys and girls are the best ones there, and that's the constant thing you're dealing with. That's the rush, that's the satisfaction. Like you said, being on the edge of just being lit when you're foiling going into a mark. I mean, that's where you go and try to set your bar. So that's always there. But really that one, just the logistics, the time, the money to set it up. You know, like we were in different places with our careers in windsurfing. Like for me, it's a pleasure and an experience to get to have, but it's not my career. It's not my financial job. So yeah, to be able to say like, oh, I can quit work. I mean, we love being here and we love promoting the sport and for me and everything we get to do, but it's not my main source of income, hasn't been. So there's the balancing of, you're like, could that happen on a Saturday? Oh, wait, no, okay. So yeah, you get a couple of those and realistically, there's so much fun to be had here and other ways to be done. And like Sarah said, I mean, your hour session at Jaws is a 10-hour day when all is said and done, if you're doing it right, that stuff. So, but at some point you just felt to go. So yeah, it was like,
yeah.
But looking at, it's like funny having done it the first time too. And I want to go back. I want to have we've talked about a lot and worked with her and her equipment over the years. Cause it's kind of what you do. You like you did, you were like, well, this is what I have. I'm going to go try it. And then right away you're like,
it's terrible.
I don't want to just like go around to ride. Like I want to ride it. I want to have fun. Like it's not fun unless you're on the real right stuff. Sure, you get the satisfaction in that, but like first time I did it, there was another swell like 3 days, or we had that big swell too. I was like, no way do I want to go on my, like, you need the big board if you want to get a good line and get a nice turn. You know, there's different sides for that, and it's just a very unique thing. So yeah, it was finding the other sides and that balance. So.
Yeah. Let's take it all the way back, guys. Before Jaws, before becoming a windsurfing power couple, before you even met, before even windsurfing at a high level. Sarah, you're from New Caledonia, which in some ways, as a visitor myself, reminds me a little bit of Maui. Like, it's a beautiful place. There's a lot of water activities. People really use the water, whether it be spearfishing, going out on the boat, windsurfing, foiling, whatever it might be. Good vibes as well. Is it like similar in your eyes? I mean, having lived there how many ever years and now living in Maui for the last couple, and how was it to grow up in New Caledonia?
Well, it was amazing to grow up there. I'm super grateful that I was born on this island. I got to live in the ocean and have parents that were passionate by the sea. And my dad has a sailboat, so every chance we had, we were taking off on the boat and spending as much time as possible in remote places, and not necessarily searching for waves. The waves for me came from other friendships that led me to discover the waves, because as you probably saw there, if you don't go out to the outer reefs, you never see waves on the shore. The lagoon is so that there's a barrier reef around the island, and that's where the waves break, but it's 15 to 18 miles away from the shore. It's almost like 45 to 1 minute boat ride straight out to sea. 45 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's far. And so when I finally got to experience the waves, it was, that's how I fell in love with wavesailing and surfing. And when I came to Maui, I feel like things are different because riding waves is central here. You have so many surfers. Like, it's really if you're in the bubble of surfers on the coast, it feels like that's what everybody does at their own level. Where in New Caledonia, you still kind of have people who have no idea what's happening on the outer reefs, you know? So it's kind of cool too, because it's like, it's all a little secret almost, although like more and more people now are getting boats and going out there. So it can start to be crowded on the passes the closest to Numea, the main town.
That was my next question. I mean, Tenya, let's say the most, or the closest or the most kind of go-to spot from Numea. It's like a perfect left-hander with wind. I mean, it's probably the most underrated spot in the world. Hopefully not too many people see it, and I don't get the credit for making it popular. But I mean, and like, I would check the forecast like after the contest or like a week before the contest, like, hey, is anybody going there? And they're like, no, we just go slalom sailing today here in the lagoon, or we just go winging, or we just go whatever. I'm like, guys, don't you know what, like, it's like perfect, like absolutely perfect.
It's probably the best wave sailing wave in the world. I'll be the one, but no one can still get out there very easily. So I doubt that we're going to have the effect wave.
It's such a mission. Yeah, it's a mission. Like you go only when you know for sure it's going to be firing. There are a few people that like Johan Despujol, for example, like he'd be able to go even when it's small, and it's very brave of him. But yeah, you drive with the boat on the trailer for an hour, you launch the boat, and you cross the sea. That's usually like horrible because it's windy when you go, and that's another 45 minutes to an hour. And you rig on the boat, and then once you're there, you sell all you can because it took you so long. So you sell for like 3-4 hours, and then you do that right back. Put everything, bring the boat back, rinse the boat, and you're wrecked. You can barely get food into your mouth at the end of a day like this. So that's why, even though it's amazing wave, there's still not that many people who go. And I think we also don't know enough of that wave because we don't. It's not like we keep out that you drive by every day if you want to. You know, you can see what different swell angles with different winds and tides do to that wave. And for Tenia, we kind of wait for that special kind of forecast that you got a good certainty that it's going to be good and working, even though we still have those times where you get there and for some reason it's bad. And so you're just on a boat that's doing this and you wait till the tide changes, hoping it's going to get better. But it's such a good wave. Did you ever get to ride it in the end?
No, never.
Oh.
But I'd like to think that if I lived there, I would get a Zodiac or one of those Vietnamese boats with a five horsepower engine or whatever, and I would get there somehow. You know, like how do you guys go slalom sailing here? It's probably full of waves like that around. You know, I'm like, okay, but it is what it is. It's crazy. Yeah. And not to put you down, Casey, again, but you grew up in mainland US. Totally
down already, or what's the?
I mean, we've just been talking about paradise for the last 10 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
You grew up,
California, where it looks like everyone runs around in bikinis and board shorts, and Sarah got there and she's like, "It's a lie, it's fucking freezing." First place is Santa Cruz, it's like coldest place on earth.
Yeah. So California and. Windsurfing wise, mainland US is a bit of a puzzle for me because the gorge used to be a real hub, and Oregon coast and North California coast and whatever. It's full of spots. San Francisco Bay Area is probably the best spot close to a big city, anywhere in the world.
Spectator wise and the visuals for sailing. Actually, first time Sarah came to Cali, and we did the little AWT at the time, the IWT Santa Cruz contest, and then to the bay to sail under the Golden Gate Bridge. It's amazing.
Sailing under the gate, the bridge. So cool.
Yeah. And then a couple sharks and whales and whatever.
The windsurfing story of the U.S. has been a mystery, and I feel like our generation has been on the side of it, trying to figure out, where, when, or how it came up. But I think too, it was so interesting, and I think the stories that we all known, where the sport really gained its roots. It started, or you did the podcast with Zane before I saw it, and his grandpa and that crew down in Marina del Rey at Mama's Beach in LA. I mean, this is where the first ones were tried and how the thing expanded. And the guy that my dad bought the house from that I grew up in was one of the first distributors of the original windsurfer, in Santa Monica and Malibu. It's so crazy to think of these stories for it. But my growing up was driving to a lake 2.5 hours outside of LA, where if you got to ride a 6.5, it was a windy weekend, and hung out with my parents and their friends, and they all had dogs, and it was an experience learning the sport of windsurfing under that realm. And I think probably like most people, getting to see the videos and any magazine you could find that was coming out of the PWA recaps or videos from here. And Robbie Nash's video and seeing trying to imagine doing lay down jives, but really bottom turning waves here and stuff, with just that idea.
Yeah. So as a kid, as a teenager, you realize probably that windsurfing in the US is kind of over the hump already, unfortunately. And then what's the path like? How do you find yourself in that fold, as a young guy trying to become a pro,
It's funny. I always loved it. I didn't at first, I don't think, because my friends growing up were heading to the beach to go surf or play sports. My parents were taking me, like I said, to this lake to go windsurf with their friends. I was like, why am I doing that? I want to go hang out with everybody else. And no one really knew windsurfing growing up at school. And then I came out here actually when I was 15 and stayed with Levi and his parents when they were doing the Maui Ocean Academy for 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, that's windsurfing. There are people it's the first time I met people my age that windsurf, and I saw another light. So, I always had the hook for it, and then that inspiration. And then, a couple of years older than me were the Bay Area guys, Rob and Wyatt and Tyson and Whit. And those guys were still freestyling and still going on tour a little bit. from the US, like that last group. So it's always looking up to them and that way, and trying to get up to the Bay and sail in the Delta. So just kind of took its separate hold. But when I came here and stayed with Levi's parents, like I was saying, and Levi, at the time, they were still getting good contracts from Neil Pride. And I remember Levi's dad saying, like, look, you're 19, 20 now, but when you're 35, like, you better have that transition set up. They better be paying you now, because this is your career while everyone else is doing something else. And when you transition, it's got to be there to pay through. And you kind of have that contrast all of a sudden. And it stuck with me a lot, and asked the same question: why is windsurfing not getting that attention? It's a beautiful sport, outdoor, this physical activity, the community that you're with, what it promotes. And so it kind of inspired me to go back to school and switch to, I was admired Red Bull at the time, and for what they were doing in support. They were the only brand I still saw supporting windsurfing outside of the industry, right? So I tried to end up working for them, and I was like convinced that there's got to be a way to get more people to see the sport again and really appreciate what it's doing. It's just got to fit a different perspective now, right? Because you can't stadiumize the sport, right? Everything that we saw around us in basketball, football, everything else, there's also merchandising, there was buying tickets, there was selling the TV ads, there was producing at this time. So very quickly I could see that already, like the ability of doing contest windows and then getting people to watch it and then report it and that stuff, like there was something missing there and that side. So that got me going for a while and through college and trying to figure out a different way that people could like consume our sport, and maybe that would shift it a bit. And so that was my kind of growing up for it. And slowly
what'd you figure out? Because it was there. It was on TV. It had like the 30-minute show from the event. It had the freaking windsurfers on the talk shows or on late night TV. It had
the pictures as top 100 GQ males of the year and on Temptation Island. And my favorite parts about these things, the stuff we saw growing up. I just think, and it's something that I think as the niche sport, we've always been the first that experienced these shifts in the way media and sports and publication is done. And I think, it was opening up to that fact that the standard for contracts or how that was done was changing. You asked about how it was on every show, and I read have you read the history of Neil Pride? They have this 40-year book about it, very Spaniard.
No, not yet.
And they have a whole section on Jeff Cornish, who was the marketing director at the time. And he literally made the videos of Robert Masters, all the original Neil Pride ones, all the guys. He would make VCRs of them, and he would travel around to all the bars in the mainland US and give them copies of videotapes, because there was no YouTube, there was no direct TV streaming. They had nothing to show. And so they were giving them these tapes, this amazing action in Maui, which otherwise you'd never see. So there was such this enticement for it now, right? Where we get it all a lot this time. So that's how they were able to create such this demand and interest in the market. And they were doing, it's like, sounds so crazy to think about now, but they were doing collaborations with like Camel cigarettes at one point in the late 80s, right? Where if you bought a carton before April 15th, they'd ship an original windsurfer to your door by May 15th. And so very quickly they had these ways, and the way that the sport was too, where the wind thresholds to have fun were much lighter. You have all these spots that everybody loved doing, like their magazines from the gorge. Sean Aiken has them. They showed it in like 82. You'd have a regatta in San Diego with 75 women, 20 to 22 years old, like competing. I mean, how could we ever get that many to compete in a thing today? So I think as the way that we view sports and as that got shifted, and also as our sport became so specific, and really that rush that you found became such a unique places, that kind of shifted to where we are now. But what's really cool to see is with the birth of foiling, just how much it's exploded again, because now all those spots are now so fun to go participate in these sports again. So. Yeah, there's got to be a way. With tow and freestyle, we can put it in freaking city centers. With foiling, as you say, there's light wind places and whatever. There's got to be a way. And I think whenever I think of it, like all the global sports, they always try to get into the US. Like even Formula One is a good example that they've pushed super, super hard to try to get into US, try to have a race. They try to have like a street race in Miami and stuff. And it kind of, it's been their little
problem, you know. And I think for windsurfing, if we manage to kickstart it back in the US, imagine having even a racing event in San Francisco Bay Area, you know.
Yeah, like when they did actually when we first started dating, we got to go watch the America's Cup at Chrissy. It was at San Francisco. It was amazing. I mean, it's the best venue you can hope for, you know. And but again, we've tried to do races there. They put them on. We've done local ones there with the St. Francis Yacht Club, and you know, the week window goes by, and especially I'm sure in the U.S. I don't know how it is elsewhere, but without the support from the government to waive a lot of the permit uses and everything else they add on to it, gets so expensive to try to do it. Like in California in particular, it was just like, what did they say it was like $10,000 just to like reserve the spot for Santa Cruz, you know, and this stuff. So they haven't made it easy. And I know
whether it's for events or to run a windsurf school, because I think that's also what's tough and different from France and the other European countries where you have clubs or windsurf centers where kids can be dropped off and learn to windsurf. And here it's much more private. Like if your parents aren't teaching you, basically,
there's no way to do it.
You know.
Yeah, that was one of the big differences we realized about our growing up. And like I said, it was me by myself with my parents' friends, and Sarah had a whole crew of kids. And when we went, and you saw it too at the ACPV at their club, right? I mean,
New Caledonia. New Caledonia, for that, it's insane. It's like the best. It's the best. Like they have a club there that, like you say, you can drop off your kid. Whether it's, you know, they have age groups and they direct those kids into, you know, like you have a freestyle group, you have racing groups, you have. It's incredible. It's just
and
like
everybody like is inspired by the other generation, you know. So even like me and Thomas Goya, Antoine Albert, we are currently competing in all different fields, and we still like get to inspire those kids. And then there are the ones who are like going to the France Championship, who also inspire the younger ones. And so it's really cool. Like we've seen also the number of young girls who participate explode in the club, and it's just a really nice family place where you want to spend time, or where you trust that your kids are going to be safe and have fun and learn good values. And that's the part that's missing a little bit here. And that's why we're trying to do those little like introduction days at Kanaha with KC, or we take a bunch of equipment on Sunday afternoon and tell everybody to come and try. But what would be sick would be to have like a container there and the kids able to really have their space, you know, and come and use the gear. Yeah.
And again, it's not like the instructors before us or the shops you haven't tried. They're just running into a lot of permit issues, you know, and this stuff. And you're just like, it's for, I mean, we would get every one of the brands and shop owners and designers here the second we said we want to go do free clinics on the weekend. Like they were like, here's the gear, come down, we'll help. Like everybody, Jeff Henderson was like, I'm going to drop stuff in the bushes and I'll leave it there permanently. If someone steals it, that's amazing. Like, you know, like just get guys to windsurf. And we would go and we'd find like a lot of the locals are typically be fishing at Kanaha with their little kid and like, you guys want to try it, you know, and all that stuff. And just that access point where they have that infrastructure set up in New Caledonia and a lot of other places. And it's like, where do you get to learn? You know, like how do you even start? And Hood River is still one of the few places that has that in the U.S. Like Big Winds has the school, and they do a lot of charter stuff in Portland or local areas where kids can come out and try it. They have like junior programs for the other sports. Same thing like Whirlwinds in Corpus Christi in Texas. Beautiful places like that. Like it's a spot that for learning is amazing. A lot of people don't even realize there. It's like miles of just waist deep warm water, and yeah, it's perfect. So for us here in Europe, it's like a totally different universe. You know, like I don't think So, but anyway, you guys met in Maui, and was Casey's pickup line really like, do you need a ride from the airport? That was after, right? I don't mean to be defensive on that one.
Yeah, it was a second trip.
Yeah.
Give me the story. Come on.
Maybe you should tell that one.
Well,
give me all the dirt.
I came to Maui.
How he was trying, and finally you just...
That's right, yeah.
No.
Persistency always wins.
No. But in this case, it did. But I was just on my way to Maui with, like, I had this huge switch of career because I came out of engineering school and I decided I was not going to pursue that, but instead I was going to try and become a professional windsurfer, and I was going to go to Maui and figure all that out. And I put like money aside, found a few sponsors, and I was on my way for this adventure, which was my adventure. And then this guy is like, do you want to ride from the airport? And then I was like, do you want to go surfing? And I'm like, leave me alone.
Right, she was like, leave me alone. Yeah.
I didn't came here to find a husband. I came here to winter and figure this out. But I'm glad he insisted, because in the end, I was like, this guy is special and really nice, and I really like him. So even though I was very tunnel vision focused on my goal, I was still able to see that this was a very special person I met. So it's kind of a really nice gift that life did for me too. At the same time that I committed to following my passion and my dream, I also got to meet my soulmate.
Wow, I think I'm gonna melt.
Me too. Yeah, thanks, bud. I get that on camera. Keep it
So
for
what?
later.
So
Yeah, we'll have you when you like leave water everywhere. It's just like,
Don't clean your dishes. But
Yeah.
we said we're soulmates.
so most places it's like let's go to the movies, let's go have dinner, whatever, and there it's like let's go supping.
Yeah, let's go windsurf. Oh, there's no wind. Now what should we go do? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Like, I think when you sealed the deal when you took me to Baja and to San Carlos, that was like, felt
Yeah.
like it could have been a honeymoon if we had gotten married.
That
It's
was
like-
amazing.
Got you scared of all the scorpions and all the
No,
snakes.
she just found her like, she's like, I just want to live here for the rest of my life. Really? That's been my dream forever too. You want to marry me? Can we go? Like, that's good.
Yeah, because that was a risky move, like to take a girl that you've been dating for it was like 2 months by then.
With all my friends.
It took me with all his friends to this place that has no water, no electricity. It was freezing cold. We're just living in our little van and hiding behind the van from the wind. And like you don't shower for 10 days. You're just like out of your wetsuit into your warm clothes. And but it was so nice because the waves were epic and it was windy and it was not crowded and it was like pelicans and seals and super
Dolphins
wild.
on her waves, stand-up paddling. It's like, what the...
I can tell you exactly why he did that. He did that because as a windsurfer, to find a girl you like that actually windsurfs and, that you can show off to your friends. It's
Right,
it's like...
And see how much I can push it right away. Like, so we can camp down here. This is good. All right, sweet. So
I don't have to take a shower for 10 days. Okay, I'll do that.
As long as there's waves and warm beer, cool. Like, this is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's not get into the romantic stuff. Okay. I'm really bad at that. Like a year later, you guys were married. So it all turned out pretty good, I guess. You live in Maui, as we mentioned. You windsurf, surf, sup, foil. I don't know what else you can do there. Canoe, spearfish, whatever. When you don't, you work, as you said. Sarah, you train other professional windsurfers, which we'll get to. It's all basically like now, Casey, you also work for Goya a little bit. Does it get much sometimes that it's all so like water centric, that it's all so connected to the ocean, that it's all like, is it like Groundhog Day effect a little bit? Never?
Can be for me. Yeah. No, I feel like it can be. Yeah. Especially if you don't travel to different waves or places. But funny you just asked that because I just came back from training. Last year I got into Muay Thai. It's Thai boxing. Completely like different word, nothing to do with water sports. Although there's a lot of similarities in the approach to fight someone or be on a wave, and I love it. I love that it takes me to a place that has nothing to do with the ocean, and it kind of allows me to find a balance. Yeah, something like that. But Casey, on the other hand, is just like, could do the same thing all the time. It seems like you're always lucky to go for the.
Well, it's hard to.
Winging,
Yeah. I mean, it's truly, I think at some point when you realize that no matter what we do, it gets into a routine that's part of the life of it, and the Groundhog Day, as you say. So I try to be I don't have to try to be appreciative of where our Groundhog Day is. And like you said, I mean, there's different sports that we get to do and be a part of in the development inside. So, I mean, as long as you can get in the right sync with it, if you really just want to go wave sail a perfect wave day and it's going to be winging instead for the week, I mean, that's your, okay, well, I guess I'll go do that, and that's it. But it shifted a lot. And I think we both go through those phases. For Sarah, being in the water is still a part of her job as well, to her sponsors and to compete. And so I think, as you could probably relate to too, actually, I just before our call saw Mateo's post where he said you forget sometimes in your training that it's also the fun of it, right? And it's not to say that you don't realize it, but you just repeat it all the time. And who wants to be the one that says, I just don't want to sail right now, but it is a part of your job and her job. And for me, for the last 4 years, like you mentioned, I do get to ride for Glenn Quattro now and help with some of the development stuff, which is a dream to have that part and experience in. But my primary job has been elsewhere. It's been in software sales. And as that's come to light over the last 4 years, it puts more of that, like, okay, work's done. Like, I want to go in the water, like that's not there. So there's been that contrast, and that work that's in the water to test gear and provide feedback for and try new things is, it's such a fun and dream come true like experience. So that changed for me. Definitely, I think when we first met, and I was still working for Sensor at the time, and we were trying to do a lot of the integrations with the different sports and testing the
people might not remember. Sensor was this little platform or this little thing that you put on your board connected to the app, and that you can see how high you jump and
track everything. And this was like, it came out of Red Bull, and we did, actually it was under a former company. It was like a Shadowbox was the first one. If you look it up, there's this, we had like one of the best days. It was March 31st 2010, where we had like Jaws swell for 2 days, and it kind of went down and it blew perfect 4-2 side shore and still a massive low mass high wave. So everyone was here for the photo shoots, and we got so lucky to like have an hour window to shoot everyone like going as big as they can, like Booge and Levi and Pritch and Luke. Actually, Levi's brother was going massive, and it was just like so cool to see. And you asked about that excitement again. That's what really got us. Was like, we have a tool now to capture and quantify what people are really doing, and video it, and then share that out to places where they might not normally be able to see, this action and this excitement. So that was a big part, and it was an amazing experience. I couldn't imagine anything else for it. But yeah, at a point you're like, that's Groundhog Day. You'd be traveling, or you're going out to test, because part of it's part of your work too. So
I don't want to sound, but I think Sarah
Yeah,
kind of touched on it. Like, I don't want to sound unappreciative, like you say, but it's like sometimes it's like you just feel like you're getting up for work, and then what do? I find that incredibly interesting mentally, how whether you deal with that or whether you go do something else. If you go do something else, if you feel like, I'm actually not doing my job, because nobody's going to tell you to go fucking ride 50 waves today. You have to.
And that's part of the problem too. I think we talk about it a lot, is you're really your self-entrepreneur, and you're the one telling yourself every day that you have to go ride 50 waves, or you need to go faster, right? And where maybe some other sports, I mean, we see it a lot with our friends in the community, and we are very lucky to, know a lot of these top athletes in the other sports. And you see one thing when you look on Instagram or another, and you can make assumptions, but you realize there's a lot of the brand management that you have to do for yourself. And Sarah's experienced that really firsthand.
Yeah,
so
and that's the thing. I don't know if other people can relate, but I find that I have much more appreciation for my sessions when I'm able to have time to recover, or to at least like not be rushed from one thing to another.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the pro windsurfer lifestyle, you're kind of hustling a lot on the side to find ways to make a living, create videos, content. Maybe you have a side business, a side gig. You're into some philanthropic things. All that stuff is just like boom, boom, boom. And then on top of that, you're trying to go sailing, and it can be fun, but it can also some days it be a beating, or you break equipment, you swim, you're dealing with, like, you showed up at the worst time of the afternoon, whatever. Like, if I find that if my schedule is out of control, too full, that's when windsurfing feels like the Groundhog Day, and I'm like, oh. And if I'm able to spread things out a little better, then I feel the excitement. Then I'm like stoked to show up at the beach, to work on moves, to do all these things. So I think it's not just the windsurfing instead, but also could be what's around it in your day that can impact how you feel overall.
Yeah, because for me, it's a lot of times like, oh, I just need to go test whatever 2 boards. It's going to take me an hour. Everything's set up, but it's not actually to do it properly with the proper mental commitment and the proper like thought through way and whatever it takes. Like you mentioned with the Jaws thing, that your session might take an hour, but everything that goes around it is probably as important, So now I kind of understand why athletes need managers and things like that, because there's so much more than. But the only difference is windsurfers can't actually afford managers. So, yeah.
Yeah, it takes definitely time, like for over the years, like to find your cruising rhythm, and things change. I mean, we just went through COVID, so whenever you find something that works for you, you have to update or change it. So it's constant adaptation, but that's also what our sport is about. So the waves are never the same.
Yeah. And that when somebody made it, he probably worked his ass off. So if you made it, it's like straight respect straight away, because nobody has it easy these days, for sure. You mentioned side gigs. And you're actually training a lot of PWA guys, Sarah. I mean, just to mention a few: Brausinho, Morgan Noiro, Robbie Swift, Ricardo when he's there in Maui. You train him. Give us some dirty little secrets, like who's...
I forgot about Maciek.
Yeah,
Mateus, of course. Yeah.
That stuff is a dream come true for me, like to work with these guys who... are my idols. They're like legends, to do things that I cannot even dream of doing, and to be telling them, do this, do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of epic. But yeah, no, I fell in love with training, like the whole performance training aspect of thing, managing your body, your energy. Like, as soon as I got my first prize money in Maui, I invested into training into an athletic training center here in Maui. And I was also working on the side teaching very basic fitness classes like sup yoga or Pilates or at one of the hotels in the south of Maui. So it's kind of cool because I was like in one word on the North Shore of Maui training myself around elite athletes, like in the same gym where Ian Walsh or Paige Jones, like this incredible surfing athletes would go train. Sometimes we even see like snowboarders who would come and do their rehab and recovery if they got injured. So it was really rad to, in the middle of the Maui jungle, have a place that had that level of like performance training to offer. And then I would drive to the south side, go teach, and see all kind of people with different backgrounds, like out of shape, weekend warrior, people who wanted to get a good workout but not sweat somehow, like all kind of scenarios. And at some point I got certified, and that's Maciek who reached out to me to ask if we could work together. And of course I was like, yeah, that's a dream, and to have an athlete like you. And so we started in 2019, and then Mateus came, and yeah, like now this winter, there was also Ricardo and Swifty and Morgan. And it's cool also for them to train together, because windsurfing can be a bit individual at times, so to get together, chat about the session and work on the body. And for me to be a windsurfer also, and knowing that it takes so much energy to windsurf, to wave sail, like out of your body, you really want to these guys, they want to prioritize windsurfing. It's not like they're young and they need to create their basis of strength and conditioning. They kind of already have that. So we're always there to manage, like prevent injuries, manage the overuse of the body that goes through hours and hours of repeating the same moves, pulling on the boom, which creates like postural imbalances, things like that. So working on that, like trying to be smart about it, like stand trace.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fun, and it's fun to share like things that I learn, and the more I learn and I want to keep learning, the more I can also pass on that knowledge. So that's super cool to have these guys. And then when 2020 hit, that kind of prompted me to try and share it with more people than just the ones who are here in Hawaii, but to create a website and an online program. I just like started that new adventure, and I'm hoping I'll be able to find time to grow it, because it's cool to see also people getting excited on social media, asking me like, oh, what can I do to warm up before windsurfing? Or I have a trip that is planned and I want to prepare for it so I can enjoy every minute of it once I get there. So those are things that I know how to answer, and I just want to put things together to offer tools to people to do it in a fun way.
Your best advice for a weekend warrior, windsurfer or even not even weekend, every third weekend warrior windsurfer to take care of his body?
I think I would say like just doing shoulder maintenance, because if you're a weekend warrior the rest of the week, I'm guessing like chances are high you work on a computer. So you're going to be getting that internal shoulder rotation, which gets exacerbated by windsurfing. So working on shoulder mobility and keeping that nice posture is going to avoid getting injured and also allow you to better perform when you're like dealing with the crazy gust or things like that. So that would be my number one thing, like taking care of your shoulders to be prepared. And it happens to be the program that I first created. It's called Solid Shoulders, because that was the first thing I got challenged with for me when I went from being a computer scientist to trying to become a professional athlete. It was like my shoulders took a toll on the first year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Let's switch. How you say, switch favors here. Let's plug your website, nc6training.com. I admit, I probably, yeah.
Yes.
And you do me a favor and you tell me who out of your guys is the laziest or the stiffest? Or
he's not
Ricardo.
No.
Yeah.
The stiffest is not Ricardo, but the stiffest is definitely not the laziest. So he's not going to stay stiff for long, I think. But
He's stiff because he has so many metal parts in him still, right?
Could be.
So that's Swifty, yeah. But yeah, he's half Robocop now. So
machine, at this point.
Yeah.
But so motivated, like so dedicated. I think maybe it's just that he hasn't put the focus on that yet. So I think it's good that he's on it now. And I can't wait to see him move in a way that's more loose, but still have the same strength level and power that he has.
Yeah, he did a lot of slalom, so we lift weights a bit too much. Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a way to get strong without becoming a tight ball of muscle, and it's mobility. Sure. Mobility training is basically maintaining range in your joints so that your shoulder can move the whole range without pulling up other muscles.
So that's not normal when it goes. I thought that was normal. I have it since I'm like 16.
It's not okay to stop taking care of your body.
Yeah. No, I'm joking. Okay. There's another reoccurring topic here on this podcast. And it is that list we mentioned of the guys you train is only men. Do you guys, and this is not a question only for Sarah, feel free, Casey. Do you guys feel like it's a male dominated sport?
But hard to say otherwise, right? If you just look at the beaches where you go,
Yeah. I mean, if
But you have trained other women as well. You're just saying regularly.
Yeah.
Sarah Keitha when she was here, and Lena. But I mean, for your general conversation.
Oh yeah. If you're asking how are there more men windsurfing?
Yeah, this is obvious. This is not what but like going into the sport, being a girl, do you feel like it's an uphill battle you're fighting every day to get sponsored, to get funded, to get your level of sailing higher, etc., to find the gear that fits you, because obviously the physicality is different and all that sort of things, Do you feel like the sport is really, let's say, facing men and not really kind of forgetting about the women's side sometimes?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, the things you mentioned, yes, I would say yes. The gear is designed for
especially the equipment
for men.
Also,
I think that there is not as many women trying to perform at a professional level, which create less incentive to push each other. Like I feel such a difference when I'm out there, and it not always, but oftentimes would be just me, the only girl who keep out windsurfing with the guys, or at least the only girl who's competing and trying to be at the professional level. Like there's other great women that have retired, but still a little bit in the game, like Angela Cochran, and stuff. But it's so different once we have the PWA and you have all the girls that show up, and sailing suddenly feels like, wow, I want to push myself. And I start to understand a little bit that feeling that the guys have and emulate on the water with each other. So I think that's definitely something that's been slowing down the progression. And the more you can have this energy and gather and share that, the more the sport is going to progress for women. Like for ads and sponsors, like you have to kind of pioneer a little bit things. Like it's not like there is another woman that will sponsor the way you want to be before you. Oftentimes you have to push to become that first person, and that can be tough, but it's not impossible, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I think it's created some opportunities, and different ones, just by being forced into them, not like by choice or the way you wanted it to be. You'd like to be recognized for the value that you present or on a competitive level. But that argument isn't necessarily just a male-female one. I think it's hard for a lot of the male side that has incredible time investment and skill and value to brands and to competitions, to make a good living between the amount of prize money that's available. No, like going down that road of, I really think the tours do as much as they can within their realm to try to find, money to come in and support and have prize. And there's always better or worse in that time, but also, brands. I learned this from working at Red Bull and from my parents in the advertising, and you can only spend a certain amount of what you make to reinvest into marketing to sell more stuff. So if we're not going to be selling a lot of gear, how can you pay people to promote it, right? And that's what that balance is in that side. So, as we talked about in the beginning, as the market kind of went down, how much could you really expect to get? And I think one thing that was unique was that because it's maybe male dominated, that initial support financially within the industry wasn't there. In the equipment side, but it allowed Sarah to look at, other ways of going about that. So teaming up with Steven to do Girl on Wave to show, again, and talking to a guy who found the interest in the sport and said, why isn't anyone seeing the bigger picture here of the journey and the accomplishing something that you want to do? And that's what this sport's really about, and getting people to understand that and then see windsurfing. And then Sarah looking for and finding a good sponsor outside the industry that hadn't been looking in with Caledonia Cloud and SAP and now Medallia most recently. Getting brands again that had overlooked the sport or not seen a lot of that relatable sense as a value ambassador and for these foundations. So would have liked to maybe have it different in the beginning, but definitely the way it's turned out and those opportunities.
Yeah, being forced to look for outside of industry sponsor turned out to be a blessing for me in the end, because that's how I'm able to make a living right now, is thanks to those types of sponsorships. And I think that right away I sensed that I could get support from brands with equipment, even like custom equipment, which is amazing for somebody my size. But I quickly realized that I was not going to be able to sustain this and make a living if I only looked for sponsorship in the industry. And yeah, what felt like a huge obstacle turned out to lead to opportunities, actually.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because my idea is always like windsurfing and what we do, we need to treat it as a product, right? And it's hard to sell something that is, the same, but sort of a bit slower, a bit less explosive. So kind of the same mold. Like my idea is always that we cannot put the girls into the same mold as men, right? If we're just selling a product, because just these contests and doing everything the same. And you're always kind of my poster child for this, you just did things a little bit differently. And it turned out, like you say, like a blessing in disguise kind of thing with the, with your wave sailing, with your big wave riding, with your media work, with your movie that we're going to talk about in a minute. And yeah.
Guinness World Record last year.
Guinness World Record.
And going through that ordeal, I think, to try to find, when you first started riding for these companies, they'd ask like, oh, do you do the Olympics? And you're like, well, no. Or, like the perception or understanding for where an athlete should be, and then how it translates to this sport and the different disciplines that are, and
yeah,
sometimes it's hard to like, you want to have an initial pitch, right? You said it's a product, and any product that you're trying to sell, you should be able to get it out in like one sentence. But what you do and what she does are different, and yet so on a level there. So yeah, finding those ways to at least make that production and then see.
Would you like you said, you fought that battle and you managed to find some outside of industry sponsors. Would you prefer that it was like, okay, you come in, you get a certain budget, but you have to do the PWA tour. You have to go to Pozo. You have to eat the dust in Fuerte. You have to, go to Silt and freeze your butt to death, etc. And like just be thrown into that. I mean, it's a very rhetorical question, right? But I don't know, like. Well, did you have that vision of what you were trying to do, or did you just roll with it and you're here now?
Yeah, when the timing for me came to switch paths, decide that I was not going to be an engineer, decide I was going to try and be an athlete. That's when the AWT at the time was getting a lot of hype and attention, and that's basically like. That was the timing. So I was like, this is what I'm going to go and do. It was like geographically, it fitted because it was a little closer to New Caledonia also. And so that's my first year of competition on tour was on the AWT. And I had a great time, but definitely thought in my head, like my progression is going to be to do the AWT and then at some point switch to the PWA. And as I started to become comfortable in my own shoes as a windsurfer, discover what I liked, what I didn't like, I quickly realized that the waves and the spots that we were going to fitted my description of what I find to be a fun wave sailing spot. I grew up, riding Kenya, which it's a surfing wave. It's not a wave where you try and do double forwards and all these jumps. So I realized that, Pozo, I was not so attracted to that. And also, by that time, I knew what it took to find the budget, the money to travel to get to those places. I also had switched career. So I was doing this because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do something that somebody told me to do, or if that was the case, I would just stay in my job. But so I was just kind of like, I'm going to make this work my way or not work.
I think when we started, that was the plan. Like I said, not even just Ozo's as amazing and important to windsurfing as you keep any day of the week, and to be a true world champion and to excel in both. Like when we look at surfing, there's nowhere where you want to go up against a Medina or a Curtis or any of these, right? And so you have to be that well-rounded, but that comes with the opportunity to make that work. And when you don't have the funds like both ways to get here or to go there, and
yeah, that's the thing. It's like,
you know,
in that perfect world, I would love to aim at being that well-rounded windsurfer, like in both surf and jump. But the amount of sacrifice that would have had to be put to being able to do both would have doubled everything, you know. And I was barely making it to follow the events on the IWT. So to just add to that, it sounded very hard, and yeah, it just ended up being a choice of like, I'm gonna try this as hard as I can. It's so hard anyways, and the chances of it to succeed are so hard, so I might as well shoot for something that's even more impossible, which is trying to make a career by riding big waves and doing this the IWT.
And if there's something how you say inspirational to take from this podcast, is that so many people that have come on, they're just like, I'm gonna be a pro windsurfer, fuck it, you know. and it's incredible that you can just decide that, and if you work hard enough and you meet the right people at some point and whatever, you're probably gonna succeed at it. So yeah, just a little side note. And we should probably mention, you mentioned the AWT and now the IWT. You've won it like a million times, so we should probably mention that as well, just out of good journalism, you know. Just out of good, yeah. Your movie Girl on Wave, I mean, making a movie in the mid 2010s is probably already kind of like, you know, at that time, surf movies or windsurfer movies are extinct, kind of. Everything's on Instagram and everything's, you know, like Brasinho said, you're filming it with a $100,000 camera just to watch it on a 9-inch screen, you know, or whatever. So how did that
9-inch screen?
Yeah. So how did you pull it off? Because again, to fund a movie these days is not so easy. If it were easy, there would be more of them, and I could still collect DVDs and VHSs and whatever. Kind of miss those days, but anyway, how was that process?
I was working part-time for a startup. I was programming part-time because the first few years I was just needing side gigs to make money. And that was before I was doing the personal training, the fitness training. So doing that job, we needed to shoot a company video. And the guy who came to film it in Maui was from Phoenix, Arizona. It's Steven Esparza. And when he saw my world, my life, what I was doing aside from programming, he was just blown away. It was like a child that you took to the park games, you know, and you saw like Maui and the waves, and for him being in the desert, never filmed windsurfing before, he just asked me, can I make a movie about you? And I was just like, sure, yeah.
Hell yeah.
But I was not even believing him. And I was like, this is just some random offer up in the air. Next thing you know, a couple months later, he came and stayed at our place with all his cameras, like red cameras, the real deal, the stuff that is used to shoot Hollywood movies. And I loved working with him because he was not he didn't know the sport, which like was tough. You know, at the beginning we had to tell him like, don't film when I'm going out. This is when I'm coming in, that I'm riding away. But once we got, used to the process, it was cool because he was not there to capture the sickest turn or action. Sometimes I would even have to fight him and be like, come on, I'm just going straight in front of a closeout wave. That's not a good shot. But be like, yes, that's amazing. Like, and so I could tell that his eyes were the eyes of people who didn't know our sport, and that maybe if he made this movie, people who didn't know anything about windsurfing could get excited about it thanks to his vision. And so for 2 years, he would come, spend a couple of days in Maui, and just have a blast. For him, it was kind of his vacation time. We would have fun and film everything I was doing. Or I would go to Phoenix, and there we would record voiceovers and things like that. And essentially, like he made this film, and we got distribution on iTunes, Amazon, and even like following that, we got some TV deals. So it's unbelievable that this movie made it to this point. But at the same time, I kind of was prepared for it too, because the quality that it was putting into capturing the images and the story too was unique in a way compared to the way windsurfing movies are made, where it's often very focused on the action, the moves. There's not a lot about the
yeah, it's like a proper documentary, right? It's
yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah. So that was so rad. That's an opportunity that came out of this gig this programming job that I was doing, and it's also why, like, if you ask me, like, give me the recipe of how to become a windsurfer, I could not really tell you, but I just knew that every step of the way, when opportunities came, I was there to answer for them. And so, even though I was lucky, it was also a lot of work to be like, you know, carrying cameras with him. It's not like he had assistant or anything, and like all day long filming surfing to windsurfing, and then me going to the gym and training, and yeah, we were exhausted doing this thing, but it was also super fun.
Yeah. Does he want to you want to pass the contact? I have like 20 windsurfing documentary ideas.
Yeah, you gotta. I'll send you his email.
I mean, this is like, I don't know if you guys watched the Formula One documentary on Netflix. I would like to see the stats of how many, it's called Drive to Survive. I would like to see how many people got into the sport because they watched that. Because it's a documentary about the people behind the sport and the politics behind it and how they approach and how they prepare. And it's like, and I think if we showcase that, when I speak to people that have no idea about the sport and tell them about the traveling and about the training and about all these things that they are very hard to capture on Instagram, you know, I think.
Yeah.
I think that all in betweens, like you said, you're not gonna put the 10 hours of preparations for Jaws in an Insta clip, right? Because it just doesn't fit that mold. So it's really, really interesting. And I
think the woman aspect of things too had an impact on people. I saw a lot of reactions from people who, like, when we were invited to talk about the movie once it came out, we were able to talk on some radio or even TV channels invited us. And the first reaction I always got were people telling me, like, but you're so petite, you're so small, you're this small little woman that does this thing. And yeah, I just be stunned that for people, most women thought that windsurfing was just being like, oh, and I'm just like, no, it's a finesse sport. And so I'm hoping that message also got through, like, to show that, okay, it is hard, it is extreme, but like, yeah, it doesn't have to be a 200-pound dude that's got to do this. It can be a small person, it can be a woman, it can be anyone, really, if you want to.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Once this whole COVID thing is finally over, what are you guys planning? What's the first thing you're gonna do when when it's like they finally announce?
We're gonna go see your grandma.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. But I thought you were going to say we're going to go to Baja.
No, we're going to go to Baja. We'll go see your grandparents and then we'll go to Baja.
Yeah, I was hoping last year to go to visit have my grandparents in France, and my two brothers are studying in France. So yeah, I was hoping to see some family, and that's the biggest thing to miss with this situation, is not to be able to see your family. So yeah, hopefully this summer we're going to be able to do that. Because his parents are living here in Maui, so at least we have some family here. But yeah, do that. And since to get to France, we gotta take a flight out of LA usually. That means that there's a way to go to Baja after or before. So
Yeah.
try to aim for that for sure.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you have some other next project already lined up or something. You're always brainstorming something. So come on, give us a little tease.
Okay. Well, I haven't said that too much out loud yet not just on my channels, but I really want this next chapter for me to be around writing, going to special waves like Cape Verde, Punta Preta, or even go on missions to Indonesia. But I want to do it in a way that's prepared and in the sense of being able to take full advantage of the waves there. In 2019, I got to go on a strike mission to Cloudbreak in Fiji with Camille Jubon. And that was epic. That's such an amazing wave. But I also realized how held back I was in a way because I don't have the perfect aerial game that a lot of the pro guys have. So I think my goal right now is to try and master like real aerials to be able to go to those waves and fully ride them. And lately also started to challenge myself into working on 360s with Graham Izzy. So he's giving me some of his tips. So yeah, that to me would be the goal, is to have those moves locked down to be able to take advantage of some special waves.
I don't think what Camille was doing in Cloudbreak you can classify as normal aerials, or I don't know what that was, but that's some next level shit. Like,
I don't think that I would ever get to that, but just to at least like have the technique to hit a lip like this in front of some dry reef, like there was. Not necessarily going Jubon airline, like he does. But
yeah.
But still,
that's
all the sections.
Yeah, that's one thing that I already kind of I crossed it off the page. I won't be able to do that ever. Push forwards. That's off. That's off.
It's just getting going for it.
Casey, you getting into foiling? I see you on the racing tour again, or what?
Yeah, no, not for that style of foiling. I'm going to leave that all for your guys' expertise in neck of the woods. I think we're going to have to foil with straps, but so far strapless foiling has been my go-to of fun and everything in between. But I started doing it after, it's just perfect timing really for this. I had to get a second hip surgery, and when we were coming back, I've been doing a little bit of wind foiling before and kind of going more towards that free ride side that you see in surf and sub foiling. Not so much where we came out of it for windsurfing from the race board. So it's so fun. And then after the rehab, was asking when I could start windsurfing, and the standard just try to go out when it's light. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of chalk. If I could just foil, I'd be above it all and it'd be smooth. And so they're like, yeah, but just don't get your hip wrenched. So that was my calling back into it without straps. But
yeah,
it's amazing here, and want to be a part of. I think one of the things that as you get to witness every day, and Sarah, for what you see too, I think to say just having that goal or that new thing to discover to keep it out of the Groundhog Day, to keep you excited every day to go and push forward. And for me, being able to see the best guys are going to be a part of that development process, the trial and error, the experimenting, foiling so new. The changes that are made are not like millimeters here in left curve or anything like that. It's totally different concepts. And so it's really exciting to grab, look at a board and be like, are you what? And it's just try it, like this and whatever. And so it's been a blast. And especially last year with everything that happened and us being here and all summer, it was just a huge step forward. And I think the whole world watched winging just take off. Kanaha and the harbor were just packed with people and just always discovering new things. So yeah, it's been fun for that.
Does it not feel to you like winging is a little bit like a worse version of windsurf foiling?
It would be just a little bit better if it actually had a mast that was stuck on the board. That was my first thought. That's what we said. I tried it with Wyatt Miller, who is one of my best friends and brand manager for Slingshot, who you should definitely have on here to get his opinion on this subject as well. But we were like, oh, it's fun. We were at the hatch and we did it one day. We're like, kind of everything else is the same. The board and the foil is the same from wind foiling. So you're just, like first you're hitting the thing, you're catapulting because it's not on the board. And then you're like, okay, I got it. And we were like, it'd be fun if it was a little more stiff and attached to the board and you had mass-based pressure, But then so quickly over this year, the way it's evolved and the rigidity of the wings and everything, it is so fun and there's such a place. And I would try it with our friends to rig up like a 3.0 as fast as they could, pump up a wing, and go out there with them and try to match it. But a 5-pound up in the air like this, and really the learning curve, right? Because I think for a lot of the wave foiling or freestyle foiling that we see and all that, it's really hard to just like normal windsurfing to sheet in on a jibe or on a forward or a bottom turn correctly. That gap to do it windsurf foiling when it's windy is very hard to learn at first. And with the wing, you just put it behind you, and all of a sudden you're just gliding and surfing. There's something very unique to that, and it's been fun. So
okay, so you're on the wagon.
I know it's here to stay. I was with you in the beginning, and now I'm much more of a wing fan too. So
no, I'm not anti-wing. I just every time I get on it, I'm like, yeah, I wish it was a little faster and a little stiffer.
But it's going quick. I've seen so much development. I think in the wing racing foils now, and I'm sure you see with the wing tour starting, and so they're trying to just jump on that train. And every time, with MFC, we're getting to test new prototype wings here and make them. And every little bit, you're like, oh, okay, and the wings are getting a lot more rigid. We get to test a lot of the other brands out here too and stuff. So you just hold on to a old race sail like that. So guys, I think we've had a lot of people that asked about starting winging that we would take to the harbor this summer, have some wing gear, and then they see the windsurf stuff and they want to try it too. And so they're very complimentary. And I think in general, to get people to see windsurfing still now and try it, or who haven't tried it in 25 years and then they try it again, they're like, oh my God, the gear changed, and that click.
It's kind of interesting to see our friends who are surfers kind of, making fun of the windsurf cooks. And then the surfers got into surf foiling, and the surf foiling became wing foiling. And they're like, oh, it's kind of fun to use the wing. And we're like,
Weird thought, huh? I think it's as long as we don't wear harnesses still for winging, the surfers will do it. We've had this conversation, what is the line that...
When do you become a wind cook, right?
Yeah, but they're, a lot of we got flat here, and our friends are like, oh man, it's so crowded with all the Grom surfing or the COVID summer crowds of schools out, or, and everyone's packed in the water still. So they just see us go winging by with nobody around and endless open bumps on the wind slope.
Yeah.
Maybe we should try the wind thing. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Guys, before I let you go, we have a little quick fire section, which is actually not that quick. But let's try to make it quick. Number 1, what are your pet peeves? So what pisses you off a little bit?
About each other or in life?
No, let's not get into a therapy session here. If you want, but I don't know.
Things that we're pissed off about in life.
What annoys you every day,
the imperial system. Pounds, inches,
every
cups,
goddamn time.
Ounce, quarts, gallons.
Try to read these recipes that you can make in 20 minutes, and it takes 2 hours, and you're converting grams to ounces back to cups.
It is so...
It is terrible, yeah. And then you got a board, and is it... How far off the tail do you measure? Do they measure it in centimeters or inches, or I don't know? And
yeah. I don't mind the height of people and whatever, but when something is 12 inches to a foot or whatever, ounces to a pound or whatever, it's So illogical to not have it like
What else about it? Yeah.
10.
What else about America do we love? We talk about this a lot.
No,
Our glorious system here. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah. Do we not? Do you still have your green card yet? Can't be recorded here for
I love
purposes.
America.
I love America. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, don't worry. Immigration in the EU is not much better, I don't think so, from somebody outside. So yeah, don't worry about it.
So
How
that's a
many?
good one.
Yeah. You Casey, you didn't answer. Pet peeves.
I don't know whether to use 3 fins or 4 fins wave sailing. Just wish we'd go back to 1. Make my life a lot easier.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to figure out.
Yeah,
How many?
If our cats would like me better too, that'd be nice. Pet peeves, yeah.
Yeah.
Very simple thing.
Yeah, you're not the cat whisperer.
Yeah.
How many times a day do you pee your wetsuit? Or you don't actually windsurf in wetsuits there, do you? Just windsurf in board shirt.
Yeah, I wear wetsuit. You wanna know how many times we pee in the wetsuit?
Yes.
Oh my god. Yeah, so many times.
Depends how much coffee I had before.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah. Is that not allowed? It's not right. That's board shorts. Right?
Well, I think board shirts is allowed too.
What's your answer for how many times in your slalom sessions? Or you try to keep the water weight?
No. I just let it flow. And, you drink a lot. You try to hydrate, so yeah.
Yeah.
And
Not
when
going to get
it's
better.
cold, you like drink more on purpose because it's nice,
Exactly.
Yeah. Your guilty pleasure, except for peeing the wetsuit, of course.
The mana fruit tiramisu.
Yeah. Caramel cone ice cream.
That's because of Steven von Broeckhoven.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I would
No, I
watch
was
him
thinking
like
about her.
palm the whole thing and be like, how can you eat the whole thing? And I was like, oh, that's
That's right.
Your top 5 windsurfers of all time.
Oh, wow.
Corin Surferin,
Yeah. That's going to be number 1.
Camille Gibon, Marcel Brown, Sarah Hauser, Caledonia.
Do you have a separate list, Casey? I take it.
I don't know. Yeah, I never thought of it all the way through. The Pritches would have to be up there at 1 and 2 for our local I love. And taking down Bjorn back in the day. That was rad. I like watching his videos. Yeah. Say Levi and Brazino style. Antoine for just racing nonstop in that way. Though I do like seeing your pictures where you're leading him no marks now. It's good to change it up a bit. Yeah, saw that. And yeah, I mean, Sarah Keach has just been absolutely unbelievable in her ability to perform in everything so well. It's truly incredible. And so
Yeah.
I think that's 5. About that.
And you, Sarah, on top of your list, there was a pretty good candidate for the next question. Most underrated windsurfer of all time.
Colin Sitman.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. But wait, I
And
can't believe
Tyson.
I didn't have Thomas Traversa in my list too.
That's true.
Because
Yeah.
when I think of Corin, I think about Thomas
Yeah.
because I know that they trained together for a while, especially in the freestyle era. And yeah, I think they probably like.
That's true. I'd like to throw him back in there.
Yeah.
It's always one of my favorites to watch.
But yeah, Corin is like now living in New Caledonia, living a quiet life, but destroying waves, surfing mostly. But I don't know if he's still windsurf a lot. Hope so.
Your most underrated, Casey? Also Colin, I guess.
Gone.
Yeah.
And yeah, and my friends from the Bay Area who I think inspired me to go that had the PWA been a little bit different or a little bit more North American centric would have got a good running back in the day.
Yeah.
But those guys too, I think they were part of that generation of being so dedicated to learning everything on both tacks and putting in the time and for free and just had that time before. So, I mean, even today, where they're at when they go sail, it's another level. Yeah. So it's cool to watch still.
Yeah. Foil freestyle, yes or no?
Why not? Well, we'll do it or appreciating its existence.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciating its existence. Its
I
existence.
appreciate it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Kudos to those who do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
I was with Wyatt when he was like learning how to shove it and shaka from the foil at first hatch, and just the pendulum swing you'd get from going into his shove it and swinging the board so far as and back down. You can't help but be in awe of the height you can get and the amplitude in like no conditions.
Yeah, especially in the gorge when it's blowing like 30 knots plus.
Plus, yeah, it's amazing. You have such a good run. I mean, the reality, without being horrified of it, is you get such a good run at ramps, right? Because you're not like absorbing the chop or trying to hit the right angle. You just fly right over it all and get your perfect angle. It's insane to watch. Everyone was saying Wyatt was jumping bigger with the foil backwards without him.
Oh my God.
Could be.
You need to talk to Wyatt on your podcast, by the way. Yeah.
Could be. Obstacles in slalom, yes or no?
Yeah. What do you think?
Fucking no-brainer, isn't it?
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bring back super ends.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
the most fun thing ever.
Maybe no spots for it though, right? But definitely just jumping obstacles.
Yeah, I
and
would just put an
usually make
obstacle.
that-
Like if it's above 20 knots, just put an obstacle on the way out, like last way out,
Yeah.
or something. Small, can be a small sausage. Doesn't need to be massive or whatever.
Yeah. With the lottery at the beginning where you don't get to pick your helmet size. So sometimes you end up like blind too,
Yeah.
just to add more spice to it.
Yeah. None of the helmets will do that to me. I'll just get like just too small. I had triple X is too small. So yeah. Beach starts for slalom. Same thing, no? I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's I
know.
you brought some memories back to my mind, and I used to do that. I did some slalom races in the Caledonia.
I like watching
Around the beach. It's so fun, and because we had this little bay like at the superior that is like kind of protected from the wind. It was just a shit show, like trying to make it out and then catch the wind. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I like circs with there. No, I think it's cool to watch everyone go full power to zero.
You should have a bit of both. Yeah,
It's hard.
It's
Yeah.
enough.
The running
It's
starts
enough
are great.
to get on the starting line too. So yeah, should do both.
Yeah, there is a lot of finesse in that, a lot of feel in the
It's an
running
amazing
start.
sensation to hit the start perfect. So like that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If there is one, this is again maybe not the best suited for you, but we ask that to a lot of people. One spot you'd have to sail every day for the rest of your life. Try to be not super obvious, please.
Baja.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baja.
I thought you go Hokipa. All right.
Yeah. Baja every day. I mean Hukipa. Right, Hukipa.
Well,
We don't need
Hukipa
to say
has
Baja.
got
I
many
just don't want anyone to say Baja.
different phases of it. So good Hukipa every day, like really good Hukipa. Yeah.
Baja.
Although,
Yeah, Baja.
but like good Kenya too.
Yeah. Yeah, good.
Yeah, but then you have to live on the boat, I think.
And I have to learn how to sail the other tack.
Backwards, sail backwards.
I almost like my first time there, almost died because I couldn't figure out how to water start the sail. I was getting pounded. I kept trying to do it the other way because your brain just thinks like how to get out. And I was like, everything got washed through, and then I picked up the sail the other direction and went out. It's my first other tack experience.
Don't tell me. You were like, you gave me my worst nightmares. You were like, yeah, just call my mate Jake to film from the cliff. So I called him, and then I had to watch my clips from Hokipa, and I cried myself to sleep.
Oh, you're not gonna pay.
It was so painful.
Yeah. What you think and what you see sometimes, or most of the time. Yeah.
Felt good. That turn felt good. What's up?
Yeah.
Worst excess baggage bill or check-in story?
I think my mind erased it for me, but definitely was in the probably like 600 or 800. I think I never made more expensive than that.
Yeah, you guys travel with wave gear. It doesn't count.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's too easy.
Yeah.
I think it's still $700.
So yeah, I think it's just like for me, probably just having to run with the quivers because you have to get out of LAX and recheck in, and they only have 1 hour, and they didn't realize you were going to do that with windsurf bags. So just like, whoa, dragging everything, running. I think that was about it. There's that one time also when you had your hip surgery, when they made us wait too long, and then we had to run, and your hip was painful. That one sucked.
Yeah, that's good.
There's that one time in Morocco when they wanted us to pay cash to pay for bags. It was kind of like, what? Can we get a receipt for that?
Nope.
So
where is my bag gonna go?
kind of shady. Like, I feel like you're putting that money in your pockets right now. But, yeah. No,
For people traveling to Maui, this kind of like, you get out of the plane in LAX and you have to like take your bags out and then like almost almost recheck, and they don't tell you. Like, if somebody didn't tell me, like, they would just stay in LAX. Yeah. This is a trick. Maybe if somebody goes first airport in the what's the rule? Like, first airport in the US that you land, you need to put your gear through customs or something.
And then fly like you're checking back in for a domestic flight.
Yeah, make sure you have time. Like 1 hour is too short.
Yeah. Who's your worst competitor?
Worst competitor? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I would say me. It's true.
Yeah.
I can
definitely believe that.
I can drive myself crazy just by myself.
Yeah, don't need anyone else to mess it up.
I can definitely believe that.
Yeah.
What are you guys binge watching? Give me right now recommendations.
I don't binge watch.
The Expanse. You should watch The Expanse.
Yeah.
Have you seen it yet?
No.
Well, it's amazing. Yeah.
I don't binge watch. Then I get obsessed, and then I'm like, I can't go on with my life if I don't know how this thing ends. Yeah. So I read.
Watch The Expanse.
Or watch movies. Or like series where at the end of the episode there is a resolution, like where it's like, or like Friends, like you can watch Friends and you can stop in the middle of the episode. It's okay. You can go on with your life.
How I Met Your Mother. Yeah.
A series with a resolution at the end. You mean like a movie? Basically.
Well, we had a half-hour TV show and a movie, and now we have 6 seasons.
Wait, no, we did binge watch the Queen's Gambit because there's only 8 episodes, so that one was okay.
Yeah.
But when it's like 5 seasons of 20 episodes, I'm just like, oh my god, no.
Yeah, but when I see that, like Queen's Gambit or The Spy, which is like also like 6 to 8 episodes or whatever of 1 hour, I know it's gonna be. I'm just gonna swallow it. All in one,
Yeah, we did a rainy weekend.
Yeah. You get $1 million in cash and you need to spend it in an hour or 2. What do you get?
Vans. Lots of vans.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would like take my friends on a trip to New Caledonia.
That's more selfless, I suppose. But everyone would go in the vans when we got there. Yeah, exactly.
I have so many friends I want to take to New Caledonia, but I also know it's super expensive to go and be there. So if I could, I'd be like, yay. And then we rent a bunch of boats and go.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive to be there, to eat and whatever. Yeah.
To breathe.
I remember going for like first time shopping, and I would just do my shopping like I did in Europe. And luckily there was a friend of ours with me, and she told me like, like these things, they're imported, so they're like triple the price. You should get those because they're seasonal, so they're like super cheap. Then you should like not take like lemons were like, I think lemons were like, one lemon was like $30 or something.
That's the pineapple.
Yeah, maybe the pineapple.
It's insane. It's why like when people tell me like, oh, you live in Maui, it's expensive there. I'm like, well, could be worse.
Yeah, New Caledonia is definitely worse. Last but not least, who do you want to hear on the podcast?
Well, you kept telling Wyatt, so
Yeah, Wyatt.
you
Just
should
talk
be
to Wyatt.
consistent. Yeah. Angela Cochran.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some
Bring it back.
yes.
Yeah.
Sarah, Casey, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, hope I didn't skip over way too many things, but yeah.
No, I thought that was pretty comprehensive.
Yeah. If somebody's still watching till this point, I'm like,
Yes,
Yeah,
they do. They do. It's amazing. It's amazing. We're like 37 episodes in, and they're like still watching.
Yeah,
So
dude,
it's
you're nonstop, man. It's great to have for the sport. So thank you very much
Yeah.
for doing it and having us for it. It's awesome.
yeah. Okay.
We'll recap for a summertime Maui update.
Yeah. It's been flat, and
Well, there's no ways, and everyone's losing their mind. I don't want Groundhog Day anymore. Please
Yeah.
give me a swell.
yeah. I'll remind you. Like, yeah, I don't have Groundhog Day. No.
just go
Okay.
Bucks.
Yeah, just go. No, we don't need this. We never want to practice here.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
All right, guys. Appreciate you.
care.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, man.
Cheers. Bye.
So there we go. That was actually pretty good, isn't it? No talking over each other. It's a pretty good couple right there. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of that. As always, let us know who else you want to see on the podcast. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it. And don't forget, you can chip in some beer money. If you like these podcasts, you look forward to them every week, and you want to help them, to keep being produced. We give Maciek a couple of quid here and there. Give him a few beers. You can chip in some beer money. The link is below. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week for the next one.